Somewhere along the way, life gets loud. The world begins to speak louder than your own voice. Responsibilities pile up, expectations weigh heavy, and somewhere in that noise, you lose yourself. The dreams you once had, the spark you once carried, the quiet joy you once felt, all start to fade behind layers of routine and survival. But this message is not about what's been lost, it's about what can be found again. It's about rediscovering you. Finding yourself again isn't about going backward. It's not about trying to relive who you used to be. It's about remembering the parts of you that still exist beneath the weight of everything you've carried. It's about meeting yourself in this moment, wiser, bruised, but unbroken, and realizing that you still have the power to begin again. Think about it. When was the last time you truly felt connected to yourself? Not the version of you that the world expects, but the real one. The one who laughs freely, who dreams without fear, who feels alive even in small moments. That person isn't gone. That person is waiting for you to slow down, to breathe, and to listen. There's a simple truth that many forget. You don't find yourself in comfort. You find yourself in challenge, in uncertainty, in the moments that force you to grow beyond what you thought you were capable of. Sometimes, losing yourself is life's way of asking you to evolve, to shed what no longer fits, to question what you once believed, and to rise stronger than before. You see, life will pull you in many directions. It will demand you to play roles: the worker, the parent, the friend, the provider, the dreamer. But when all those roles fall silent, when the lights go out and you're alone with your thoughts, the question remains: who are you beneath it all? The journey back to yourself begins not with a plan, but with permission. Permission to pause. Permission to let go of perfection. Permission to stop pretending that everything is fine when it isn't. Finding yourself again means giving yourself space to feel what you've buried. The sadness, the confusion, the longing, and to see that those emotions aren't weaknesses. They are signals. They are reminders that something within you still cares, still hopes, still wants more from this life. Start by listening to your inner voice. That quiet whisper that you've been ignoring. It doesn't speak in noise or chaos. It speaks in stillness. You'll hear it in the moments when the world stops demanding something from you. In the early morning silence, in the calm of a sunset, in the pause between breaths. It's there, waiting for you to notice. And when you begin to listen, something powerful happens. You start remembering what matters to you. Not what the world says should matter, but what truly brings you peace, joy, and purpose. You start asking better questions. What kind of life feels true to me? What kind of energy do I want to bring into the world? What am I no longer willing to lose myself for? It's easy to think that finding yourself means running away from your job, your environment, or even the people around you. But the truth is, you can't find yourself out there. You find yourself in here. It happens when you reconnect with your values, when you honor your emotions, and when you choose authenticity over approval. Maybe somewhere along the way, you gave too much of yourself away to people who didn't see your worth, to situations that drained you, to a version of success that never really made you happy. But that doesn't mean you can't reclaim yourself now. The beautiful thing about life is that you can always begin again. No matter how far you've wandered, Your soul always knows the way back home. You may not feel like the same person you once were, and that's okay. You're not supposed to be. Growth changes you. Pain refines you. Experiences reshape you. But at your core, there's something constant. Your spirit, your light, your essence. That part of you never disappears. It waits patiently beneath the noise of fear and doubt, ready to rise again. Finding yourself again means choosing truth over image. It means letting go of who you think you should be and embracing who you really are. It means understanding that you are not your mistakes, your job, or your past. You are the awareness behind all of it, the consciousness that can learn, evolve, and transform at any moment. Sometimes life will break you open just so you can see what's inside. It will strip away the illusions that kept you small, and it will hurt. But in that pain, there's wisdom. There's awakening. The parts of you that are lost aren't gone. They're simply waiting for you to return to them with greater understanding. So, where do you begin? Begin by slowing down. Take a moment to breathe deeply and remind yourself that you are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be to rediscover your own light. Start doing things that reconnect you with life. Walk in nature. Write your thoughts. Sit in silence. Spend time with people who make you feel seen. Every small act of honesty with yourself is a step toward wholeness. And forgive yourself for losing direction, for staying too long where you didn't belong, for forgetting your worth. You did what you needed to do to survive, but now you're ready to live. As you rebuild, you'll realize that finding yourself again isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming real. It's about finding comfort in your own skin and peace in your own presence. It's about walking into your future with your head held high, not because you have all the answers, but because you've finally remembered that you are enough, even without them. You'll start to see beauty in your own reflection again, not for how it looks, but for the strength it carries. You'll feel gratitude for the lessons that shaped you. You'll begin to smile for no reason, simply because being alive feels like a miracle again. You'll know you've found yourself when life begins to feel lighter. When your choices start aligning with your truth, when you no longer chase what doesn't fulfill you, and when peace replaces the constant noise within, that's when you'll realize that you never truly lost yourself. You were simply buried beneath layers of fear, doubt, and expectation. And now you're finally free. So, take this moment to whisper to yourself, I am coming home, to my truth, to my strength, to my heart. Remember, you don't need anyone's permission to start over. You don't need to wait for the perfect time or the perfect version of yourself. The right time is now. Every sunrise is an invitation to begin again. Every breath is proof that you still have purpose. Every challenge is a reminder that your story isn't over. It's unfolding. You are not lost. You are in the process of becoming, and as you walk this path back to yourself, hold on to this truth: you are not broken. You are simply being rebuilt into something stronger, wiser, and more whole than you've ever been. Your light never left you. It's just waiting for you to open your eyes and see it again. This is your time. This is your awakening. This is how you find yourself again. There comes a moment in everyone's life when the noise becomes unbearable. It's not always the kind of noise you can hear. It's the endless chatter of the mind, the opinions of others echoing in your head, the relentless pressure to do more, be more, prove more. You wake up, and before your feet even touch the floor, the world is already talking at you. Notifications, deadlines, expectations, all of it competing for your attention. And somewhere in that chaos, your inner voice, the one that knows who you really are, starts to fade into the background. To find yourself again, you have to learn to silence the noise around you. Because the truth is, you cannot hear your own heart when the world won't stop shouting. It's easy to get lost when you're surrounded by constant comparison, when every scroll, every opinion, every headline tells you who you should be and how far behind you are. But you're not behind. You're just overwhelmed. You've been listening to everyone except the one person who truly matters you. The world will never stop being loud, but you can learn to step back from it. Silence doesn't mean isolation. It means creating a space where your thoughts can breathe. It means giving your mind room to stretch without the weight of constant judgment. When you choose silence, you choose clarity. You begin to hear the difference between the world's voice and your own truth. Start by noticing how much of your mental energy is spent reacting to noise that doesn't serve you. The opinions of people who don't live your life, the fear of not meeting invisible standards, the guilt of saying no when your soul is begging you to rest. These are the distractions that disconnect you from yourself. The moment you begin to turn down their volume, you create space for something deeper. Presence. It might feel uncomfortable at first. Silence often does. We've been conditioned to fill every quiet moment with sound, every pause with activity, every space with something. But when you resist that urge and allow stillness to exist, you start to reconnect with the rhythm of your own being. You begin to hear that quiet voice inside you saying, "I'm still here. I never left." That voice is not loud or demanding. It's patient. It's the part of you that remembers your dreams, your values, your essence. But it can't compete with the constant buzz of noise. You have to meet it halfway. Maybe that means stepping away from your phone for an hour, walking in nature without music, sitting quietly with your thoughts, or journaling without a goal. These small acts of silence are not wasted time. They are sacred. They are how you start to tune back into the frequency of your soul. When you silence the noise, you realize how much of your energy has been spent on things that don't matter. You see how often you've said yes out of guilt, how often you've chased validation instead of fulfillment. You begin to understand that peace is not found in doing more. It's found in doing what aligns. The quiet reveals what's been hidden under layers of noise and distraction. It brings you face to face with the truth you've been avoiding, that you already have everything you need within you, but you've been too busy listening to the outside world to notice. Silence also teaches you strength. It's not easy to stand still when the world is constantly moving. It's not easy to resist the pressure to keep up, to appear productive, to be seen as successful. But in the stillness, you remember that worth isn't something you earn. It's something you already possess. You begin to operate from a place of inner calm rather than external chaos. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop following and start leading yourself. The beautiful thing about silence is that it reveals not only who you are, but who you are not. You start to notice which voices in your life are draining and which are guiding. You learn to separate the opinions that matter from the noise that doesn't. you begin to discern what truly resonates with your spirit. That's when clarity returns. That's when you begin to hear your intuition again. The quiet inner compass that has been guiding you all along, waiting for you to listen. And as you practice this daily, choosing stillness over stimulation, awareness over distraction, you start to feel lighter. The world doesn't stop being loud, but it stops controlling you. You begin to move through life with a steadier rhythm, one that matches your own heartbeat instead of everyone else's. You make decisions not from fear or obligation, but from alignment and peace. You start to see that the silence you once feared is not empty. It's full. It's full of answers, full of direction, full of the essence of who you are. Sometimes the most profound transformation doesn't come from doing something new, but from doing less. From stepping back long enough to let the fog clear, long enough to feel the ground beneath your feet again. When you make space for silence, you make space for truth. And truth, no matter how small or quiet, always leads you home. In the end, the journey to finding yourself again begins with this simple but powerful act: turning down the world's volume long enough to hear your own, because your heart has been speaking to you all along. You just need to give it the quiet it deserves to be heard. It takes tremendous courage to look at your life exactly as it is and say, "This is where I am right now." Not where you wish to be, not where others think you should be, but where you truly are in this moment. Many people spend years running from that reality, covering it with distractions, overachievement, or denial. But there's power in standing still and acknowledging your truth. When you stop pretending, you stop resisting. And when you stop resisting, transformation begins. We live in a world that teaches us to wear masks, to smile when we're exhausted, to appear confident when we're uncertain, to post highlight reels while silently struggling behind them. But that constant act of pretending becomes heavy. You start carrying layers of expectations that don't belong to you, and soon you can't tell where the performance ends and where you begin. To find yourself again, you must have the courage to remove those layers and face the reflection you've been avoiding. Acknowledging where you are isn't about self-criticism. It's not an admission of failure or weakness. It's an act of self-respect. It's saying, "I value myself enough to stop running." You can't build a new path on top of denial. You can't reach clarity when you're standing in illusion. Real change begins the moment you're willing to see your reality for what it is, without judgment, without excuses, without fear. There's a quiet strength in honesty. When you say, "I'm lost," it doesn't make you powerless. It makes you brave. When you admit, "I don't know what I want right now," it doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're open. There is a profound wisdom in acknowledging uncertainty. Because in that space of truth, you stop fighting with yourself. You stop trying to force answers that aren't ready to come. You allow life to meet you where you are, instead of where you pretend to be. Many people believe that self-acceptance means settling, but the opposite is true. Acceptance is the foundation of change. You can't rewrite a story you refuse to read. When you see your life clearly, you begin to understand the lessons behind your experiences, the reasons you made certain choices, the fears that shaped your path, the dreams that still linger quietly in your heart. That awareness becomes the map that guides you forward. Think about how often you've tried to skip this step. You feel restless, So you rush into something new, new job, new relationship, new goal, hoping it will fix the emptiness. But every time you run, you carry the same unresolved emotions with you, and they follow you until you finally stop and face them. That's why acknowledging where you are is not optional. It's essential. It's the only way to stop repeating the same cycles in different settings. Take a moment to breathe and look around your life as it is right now. Maybe you're in a season of confusion. Maybe things didn't turn out the way you hoped. Maybe you're trying to find meaning in the middle of uncertainty. That's okay. Every great transformation starts in a place that feels uncomfortable. You're not meant to have it all figured out. You're meant to be aware, awake, and willing to take the next honest step. Allow yourself to feel what's real. The disappointment, the fatigue, the fear. Feel them fully, not as enemies, but as teachers. Each emotion carries information, signals pointing to what needs healing, what needs to be released, what needs to be reclaimed. When you acknowledge your feelings, instead of suppressing them, they begin to lose their power over you. You start to understand that emotions aren't signs of weakness. They're messages from your soul, guiding you back toward alignment. There's something profoundly freeing about not having to pretend anymore. When you stop pretending to be okay, you give yourself permission to heal. When you stop pretending to be certain, you give yourself permission to learn. When you stop pretending to be strong all the time, you give yourself permission to be human, and it's in that raw humanity, where nothing is hidden and everything is honest, that you begin to reconnect with who you truly are. Acknowledging where you are also means accepting your progress, even if it's smaller than you wish. Maybe you're not where you thought you'd be by now, but look at how far you've come. Look at what you've survived, what you've learned, and how you've grown in ways you once didn't think you could. Sometimes progress doesn't look like movement. It looks like endurance. It looks like choosing to keep showing up even when life feels heavy. That kind of strength deserves recognition too. It's easy to judge yourself for not being further ahead, but judgment only builds walls between you and your peace. Compassion builds bridges. Treat yourself with the same understanding you would offer someone you love. You are a work in progress, and that's something to be proud of. Growth doesn't happen in a straight line. It happens in spirals, in pauses, in moments of stillness that don't look like progress, but are filled with quiet transformation. When you acknowledge where you are with honesty and compassion, you reclaim your power. You stop being defined by your mistakes or your fears. You begin to see that your current place in life is not a punishment. It's a passage, a temporary chapter designed to teach you what the next one will require. The courage to face your truth becomes the compass that guides you forward. So wherever you are right now, whether you're standing in confusion, healing from loss, or searching for meaning, know this: you don't have to be perfect to begin again. You just have to be present. Because the moment you stop pretending and start seeing your life clearly, the fog begins to lift. And in that clarity, you find something you may have forgotten: the quiet certainty that you are capable of rebuilding, one honest step at a time. There comes a time in life when you look around and realize that somewhere along the journey, you stopped feeling truly alive. You've been moving, doing, accomplishing, but something inside feels dimmed, disconnected, almost numb. The days blend together. The excitement you once had is replaced by obligation, and you begin to wonder, when did I lose that spark? The truth is, it didn't disappear. It's still there, buried under the noise, waiting for you to reconnect with it. Finding yourself again begins with reconnecting to what makes you feel alive. So much of life's beauty lies in the small moments that wake up the soul. The laughter that catches you off guard. The sunlight that hits your face just right. The rush of inspiration when you're doing something that feels effortless and right. Those moments are not random. They're signals. They are glimpses of the real you trying to get your attention, reminding you of what you once loved before life got complicated. When we lose ourselves, it's often because we've spent too long living according to duty rather than desire. We become so focused on responsibility, on being reliable, productive, useful, that we forget to be alive. But life was never meant to be a checklist. It was meant to be felt, explored, and experienced. To reconnect with yourself, you must begin to notice what stirs something within you. That stirring, that quiet rise of energy in your chest, is your spirit reminding you what matters. Start by remembering what used to make time disappear for you. What did you love as a child before the world told you who to be? Was it painting, writing, exploring, dancing, building, imagining? Those early passions hold clues to your most natural joy. Life may have pulled you away from them, but it's never too late to return. Even a few minutes spent doing something that brings you peace or excitement can shift your entire state of being. Because when you do what lights you up, you remember who you are beneath the titles, the responsibilities, and the exhaustion. Sometimes reconnecting with what makes you feel alive means stepping outside of what's familiar. It's easy to fall into routine, to do what's expected, to repeat what's safe, but growth and rediscovery happen in the spaces that challenge your comfort zone. Try new things, even if they seem small. Visit a place you've never been. Learn a skill that has no practical purpose other than joy. Start saying yes to experiences that awaken curiosity instead of fear. You don't need to have a plan. You just need to follow what feels honest. Every step toward what excites you brings you closer to your authentic self. There's something profoundly healing about reconnecting with simple pleasures. The sound of rain against the window. The rhythm of your breath during a quiet walk. The satisfaction of creating something with your own hands. These moments don't ask for perfection, they simply invite presence. When you're fully present, you're not lost in the past or anxious about the future. You're here. And it's in that stillness that you start to feel life flowing through you again. The problem is that we often convince ourselves that joy must be earned, that we have to reach a certain level of success or stability before we're allowed to feel alive. But that belief keeps you stuck in a cycle of waiting. You don't have to wait for permission to feel whole. Joy isn't a reward for hard work, it's fuel for it. The more you allow yourself to experience what brings you genuine happiness, the more energy and clarity you'll have to navigate everything else. Reconnecting with what makes you feel alive also means paying attention to your body and your energy. Notice what drains you and what restores you. Notice who you feel lighter around and who leaves you feeling heavy. Life constantly communicates with you through emotion and intuition. You just have to listen. The activities, environments, and people that bring you peace are not random. They align with your true self. The more you honor those feelings, the more balanced and whole you become. There will be resistance at first. When you've spent years suppressing your desires or numbing your emotions, joy can feel foreign. You might even feel guilty for prioritizing yourself. But remember, this isn't selfish. It's necessary. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't give your best to the world when you're disconnected from your own soul. Reconnecting with what makes you feel alive doesn't take away from your responsibilities. It strengthens your ability to meet them with grace and enthusiasm. Sometimes feeling alive comes from rediscovering purpose. Ask yourself what gives your life meaning. What cause, dream, or pursuit makes you feel like your existence matters? That sense of purpose isn't found by accident. It's cultivated by listening to what your heart keeps pulling you toward, even when your mind doubts it. The path may not be clear, but if it stirs something deep within you, it's worth exploring. Because that pull is not random. It's the compass of your spirit pointing you toward fulfillment. As you begin to reconnect with yourself through these moments of joy and truth, you'll notice subtle changes. The heaviness starts to lift. The colors of life seem brighter. You'll wake up with a sense of anticipation rather than fatigue. You'll start smiling for no reason other than the quiet contentment of simply being. And in those moments, you'll realize something profound. You never really lost yourself. You were simply disconnected, and now you're finding your way back home to the parts of you that always knew how to live fully. The process isn't about reinventing yourself. It's about returning to what was always there. The dreams, the passions, the spark. They didn't vanish. They were waiting for you to slow down long enough to remember them. And once you do, once you start giving time and attention to the things that make you feel alive, you'll begin to understand that this feeling of alignment, purpose, and peace is what you were always searching for. Because when you feel truly alive, you're not just existing anymore. You're becoming. Letting go of the person you no longer are is one of the most powerful acts of self-liberation you will ever experience. There comes a time when you realize that the version of yourself you've been holding on to no longer fits the life you're trying to create. You start to notice the tension between who you've become and who you're pretending to be, between the life you're living and the one that quietly calls to you from within. Change begins the moment you find the courage to release the image of who you once were and make room for who you're meant to be next. It's not easy. Letting go can feel like losing control, like stepping into unknown territory with no map to guide you. You may cling to old habits, old stories, old identities, because they're familiar, even if they no longer serve you. But comfort isn't the same as peace, and familiarity isn't the same as fulfillment. The truth is, holding on to an outdated version of yourself will only keep you trapped in a life that doesn't feel alive anymore. Growth requires release. You can't move forward while constantly looking back. Think about how much you've changed over the years. The things that once mattered deeply may no longer hold meaning. The people you once connected with may feel distant now. The dreams you once chased may not inspire you anymore. That doesn't mean you've failed. It means you've evolved. The seasons of your life are meant to shift, and you're not meant to stay the same through all of them. You outgrow mindsets, relationships, ambitions, and even parts of yourself. just as trees shed their leaves to make way for new growth. Many people resist this process because it feels like betrayal. You might feel guilty for wanting something different, for no longer relating to the person you once were. You might even miss that version of you, the one who was more carefree, or more certain, or more idealistic. But every version of you served a purpose. Each one carried you through the chapter you were meant to experience. And now, it's time to thank that version, to honor it for getting you this far, and then gently release it, so that your next evolution can begin. Letting go of the person you no longer are also means releasing the stories you've told yourself about what you can or can't do. Those stories were written by past experiences, by fear, by the limitations of the people around you. But they don't have to define the next chapter. You're allowed to rewrite your narrative at any time. You can choose a new identity built on truth, rather than expectation, freedom rather than fear. One of the most liberating realizations you can have is that you don't owe consistency to your past self. You're not obligated to stay in a life that no longer fits just because it once did. People may question your changes. They may not understand why you've shifted, why you're no longer the same. But that's okay. They don't have to understand. Growth often looks like loss to those who haven't experienced it yet. The people who truly care for you will adjust to your evolution. Those who don't were never meant to stay for the whole journey. The hardest part of letting go is often the in-between. The space where the old has ended, but the new hasn't yet begun. That's where uncertainty lives. It's where you start questioning everything and wondering if you made the right choice. But it's also where transformation happens. In that quiet space between endings and beginnings, you're rebuilding. You're shedding the layers that no longer reflect your truth and slowly rediscovering what does. It's uncomfortable, yes, but it's sacred. It's the birthplace of your next chapter. You'll notice that as you let go, you begin to feel lighter. The weight you've been carrying, of old expectations, old identities, old fears, starts to fall away. You begin to breathe more deeply, think more clearly, move more freely. You start making decisions not out of habit, but out of alignment. And that's when you realize that the person you were never disappeared. They simply evolved into who you are becoming. You were never meant to stay fixed. You were meant to expand, to transform, to become more of yourself with each passing season. Letting go also means forgiving yourself for the times you stayed small because you didn't know better. You forgive the choices you made when you didn't have the clarity you have now. You forgive the versions of yourself that settled, that stayed silent, that forgot their worth. Those moments weren't mistakes. They were part of your awakening. Each one taught you something essential about who you are and what you deserve. And now that you know better, you can move forward with greater wisdom and grace. You don't have to mourn every version of yourself you leave behind. You can honor them instead. They were necessary for your growth. They helped you survive, learn, and evolve. But now, it's time to stop trying to fit into the shape of who you used to be. You are not that person anymore, and that's something to celebrate, because growth doesn't erase you, it reveals you. It uncovers the truest version of yourself, the one that was hidden beneath layers of expectation and fear. So when you feel the urge to hold on, remind yourself that release is not loss. It's transformation. You're not letting go of yourself. You're letting go of limitation. You're not abandoning your past. You're honoring it by stepping fully into your future. Every ending creates space for a new beginning, and every time you release what no longer serves you, you make room for what's meant to arrive. The person you once were helped you survive. The person you're becoming will help you thrive. And once you truly embrace that truth, you'll stop fearing change and start welcoming it, because deep down, you'll know that every time you let go, you're not losing yourself. You're finding yourself again, only this time with greater strength, clarity, and purpose than ever before. You are not defined by your past. That simple truth carries the weight of freedom. Freedom from regret, from shame, from the stories that once kept you small. Too many people live as if their past mistakes, failures, or heartbreaks have carved permanent boundaries around who they can become. They carry the echoes of yesterday into every new opportunity, allowing old memories to dictate their confidence, their choices, even their belief in what's possible. But the past is not a prison. It's a classroom. Its purpose is not to confine you, but to teach you, to prepare you for the person you are capable of becoming. Every experience you've ever had, every wrong turn, every broken promise, every difficult chapter, was never meant to define your identity. It was meant to refine your strength. Yet so many people hold onto their past like a verdict that can't be appealed. They say, "I've failed before, so I'll fail again." They whisper, "I've been hurt before, so I can't trust again." They tell themselves stories that limit their potential because they believe the past has the final say. But it doesn't. The past can only control you if you continue to relive it instead of learning from it. At some point, you must decide that you are more than the sum of your old experiences. You must make the conscious choice to stop replaying memories that drain your energy and start building new ones that restore it. The past may explain where you've been, but it doesn't dictate where you can go. You are allowed to start over at any time, no matter what has happened before. That is the power of being human. You can rewrite your story whenever you decide to. If you look back, you'll see that every hardship left behind a lesson. Maybe it taught you resilience, or patience, or discernment. Maybe it showed you who was truly loyal, or what truly mattered. You may not have seen it then, but even your most painful moments were shaping your strength, sharpening your clarity, and preparing you for a future you couldn't yet imagine. That's why healing from your past isn't about erasing it, it's about transforming your relationship with it. Instead of saying, "This broke me," you begin to say, "This built me." You've made choices in the past that you might regret now. But regret only has power when you stay stuck in it. When you use it as fuel for growth, it becomes wisdom. Every regret can be rewritten into responsibility. Responsibility to grow, to do better, to never repeat the same pattern again. The moment you stop running from your past and instead start understanding it, you take back your power. You stop being a victim of your history and become the author of your destiny. There's a reason your windshield is bigger than your rearview mirror. You're meant to glance back only long enough to gain perspective, not to drive your life looking backward. If you spend all your energy replaying who hurt you, who left, or what went wrong, you'll miss what's right in front of you. New opportunities, new connections, new beginnings. Life doesn't wait for you to make peace with the past before moving forward. It keeps unfolding, and if you're not careful, you'll spend so much time in yesterday that you forget to live in today. You are not the same person you were when you made those mistakes. You've grown. You've learned. You've survived. The person who once stumbled through confusion and pain no longer exists in the same form. Yet you continue to punish yourself as if you haven't changed. Growth deserves grace. You wouldn't judge a flower for the time it spent in the dark before blooming. So why do you judge yourself for the seasons that shaped you? When you finally decide to release the weight of your past, you'll feel something powerful. Lightness. The energy you once used to carry guilt and fear becomes energy you can now use to create, to build, to love again. You'll begin to see your past not as something to escape, but as something that empowered your evolution. The moments that once felt like endings will begin to reveal themselves as turning points. You'll understand that without those struggles, you wouldn't have developed the resilience, the empathy, or the clarity that defines you now. People will try to remind you of who you used to be. They'll bring up your old mistakes or call you by the name of your past behaviors. But their memory of you does not have to become your identity. You owe no apology for your evolution. You don't need permission to change. What matters most is who you're choosing to be right now. Every day you wake up, you're writing a new sentence in your story, and every sentence is an opportunity to redefine what comes next. So, when the voice of your past tries to whisper that you're not enough, remember that it's only an echo. It doesn't belong to this moment. You are not your mistakes. You are not your failures. You are not the person who didn't know better. You are the person who grew from it all. You are the person who decided that lessons are more valuable than labels, that redemption is stronger than regret. You can't change what happened, but you can change what it means. That's where true power lies, not in rewriting the past, but in reclaiming your interpretation of it. Once you understand that nothing can hold you hostage anymore, you become free to move forward. Not because you've forgotten your past, but because you've finally understood its purpose. Every day, life offers you a choice to be a prisoner of what was, or a pioneer of what can be. The past may have shaped you, but it does not define you. You define you by the courage you show today, by the choices you make now, and by the vision you hold for your tomorrow. The moment you decide to reclaim your power, everything begins to change. It doesn't happen all at once. There's no dramatic thunderclap, no applause, no sudden flash of enlightenment. It happens quietly, in the smallest moments, when you finally stop waiting for someone else to save you and realize that the strength you've been searching for has always lived within you. Reclaiming your power means remembering that your happiness, your peace, and your direction are not dependent on anyone else's approval or validation. It's the moment you stop giving away control of your emotions to the people or circumstances that disappointed you. It's when you stop saying, "They made me feel this way," and start saying, "I choose how I respond." There is something deeply liberating about taking responsibility for your own life. It's not about blaming yourself for what went wrong. It's about recognizing that you now hold the pen that writes what comes next. Too many people live as if they are passengers in their own story, waiting for life to steer them in the right direction. waiting for conditions to be perfect before they begin. But nothing changes until you do. The most powerful moment in your life is when you stop waiting and start creating. When you look around and say, "This is where I am, but it is not where I'll stay." Reclaiming your power starts with awareness. It's noticing how often you say yes when you mean no, how often you shrink your light to make others comfortable, how often you doubt your own intuition because you've been conditioned to believe someone else knows better. Every time you silence yourself to keep the peace, you hand away a piece of your strength. Every time you let fear decide your next move, you surrender your freedom. The way back to your power begins the moment you start listening to yourself again. Your instincts, your boundaries, your truth. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to say no without guilt. You are allowed to walk away from anything that drains your spirit. Reclaiming your power doesn't make you selfish. It makes you whole. It means understanding that protecting your energy is not an act of ego. It's an act of survival. The world will always ask for more from you, more time, more attention, more effort. But power comes from learning when to give and when to preserve. It comes from saying, "I matter too." And yes, reclaiming your power will challenge people. When you stop apologizing for existing, when you stop agreeing just to belong, when you stop explaining why you deserve peace, some people will not understand. They've grown comfortable with the version of you that was compliant, accommodating, and silent. But your purpose in life is not to remain small so others can feel tall. You're not here to be agreeable. You're here to be authentic. And authenticity, though it may cost you some relationships, will give you something far greater: self-respect. The truth is, no one is coming to hand you permission to live your life fully. You must give it to yourself. You must become the one who decides what's worth your energy, what deserves your forgiveness, and what no longer earns your attention. Reclaiming your power is not a one-time decision, it's a daily practice. Every morning, you choose to stand taller, to speak kinder to yourself, to stop feeding the doubts that once defined you. Every night, you forgive yourself for what you're still learning. Power is not about perfection, it's about persistence. There will be days when reclaiming your power feels exhausting. You'll question whether it's worth the effort. You'll be tempted to fall back into old habits of overthinking, pleasing, and settling. But then something beautiful will happen. You'll look back and realize how far you've come. You'll see that the things that used to break you no longer have the same hold over you. You'll notice that peace has replaced panic, that clarity has replaced confusion. That's when you'll understand that power isn't something you take from others. It's something you awaken within yourself. It's in the way you carry yourself when no one's watching. It's in the way you keep showing up even when the path isn't clear. It's in your quiet decision to keep believing in your own potential, even after life has tested it. Power is presence. It's the energy of knowing who you are and refusing to let the world convince you otherwise. The greatest shift happens when you stop identifying as someone who's been hurt and start seeing yourself as someone who's healing. When you stop saying, "I lost everything," and start saying, "I learned what matters." When you stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" That's power. The ability to transform pain into purpose, fear into faith, and endings into beginnings. You will not always feel powerful. There will still be moments of doubt, vulnerability, and uncertainty. But reclaiming your power doesn't mean never falling again. It means knowing that no fall can erase who you've become. It means trusting yourself enough to get back up, to keep walking, to keep choosing growth, even when it's uncomfortable. It's realizing that the most powerful person in your story is not the one who never struggled. It's the one who never stopped rising. And when you finally begin to live from that place, where your choices come from confidence instead of fear, where your worth is rooted inside rather than borrowed from others, you'll notice something extraordinary. Life doesn't feel like a fight anymore. It feels like flow. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop doubting and start creating. You stop surviving and start truly living. That's the quiet power of someone who has come home to themselves. The kind of power that doesn't need to shout to be felt. The kind that radiates peace instead of pressure, conviction instead of control. And that kind of power, once reclaimed, can never be taken away again. Thank you for listening to Wisdom in Minutes Audiobooks. Until next time, remember, the journey back to yourself begins the moment you decide you are worth finding.